essentially we're spending more. We owe more money than we have the ability to produce to pay off that debt, and it's only growing. So instead of putting money into roads, into bridges, into education, and into defense, a lot of that money, billions of dollars every year, are being spent to pay down the debt. That Trump's problem and challenge is affordability. When the midterms happen, and I know you disagree with this, it's going to be a bloodbath for his party because people are fed up and they feel like they're being lied to. I think that there needs to be more of a balance between healthy optimism and also making rough decisions about what we need to cut. We can start to redirect some of the monies away from the military for a while to reduce the debt.
Infrastructure in California has gotten way bad. The roads are just absolutely abysmal. Like, it's just and don't even talk about traffic. And by the way, here Houston, terrible too. Terrible too. It's horrible. 1/4 of the $250 billion worth of fraud, and we could fund an entire universal healthcare program for the entire United States.
The judicial branch, they're guided by the most defined set of parameters and guidelines. And I think they're emerging as one of the most important legs of our democracy. Trump looking at loopholes to maneuver around it because he can look at different articles in the Constitution to leverage his power to continue moving forward with tariffs.
What you're watching right now, I think, is the beauty of the due process, checks and balances, give and take of the United States government civic framework.
The United States president is one of 3 branches of the whole governmental system. And what he's looking to do is expand his power beyond what it should be, is that you don't use tariffs as a weapon to extract money.
Len, I am all for universal health care in America because I think we can do it in America because I think we make enough money in America. I just think we spend too much and we fraud too much.
I agree. I agree.
And I think that if we got our fraud under control, that would automatically take care of our spending.
I think it would help a lot, but I think we've got to change.
And 100%, and we would automatically have, we could have so much money in America that we'd have no idea what to do with it.
Trump has the humor and brevity, but he doesn't have the clarity. So I don't believe, because what's going to happen is he's going to go off on all these different tangents. He'll start off, he'll use the teleprompters for the first 15 minutes. And then the next hour and a half, he'll just go and riff. He's going to riff, man. Want to see him come and deliver a message of unity and of hope and of optimism and of reality. I want to see him do that. That's just not in his wheelhouse. I don't think he's capable of doing it. Like what goes on with the rich and the powerful, there's no accountability for them. But I want every single person that hurt somebody, that abused somebody, that mistreated somebody to pay the full price to the fullest extent of the law, man.
Breakfast is the worst meal of the day. The only time you should be eating breakfast is if it's high protein and low carb. That's it. The real cause of Alzheimer's and the real cause of heart disease and arteriosclerosis and all that is insulin resistance. The thing about sugar is that your body can make an infinite amount of sugar without you eating any of it. You don't need to eat any sugar. You could eat 0 sugar and your body will make all the sugar in the world.
You know, our goal is to dispel the different myths that are out there regarding our nutrition. Regardless of what you've done to your body, the body is very forgiving if you begin to take care of it. So eat well, exercise, do those things with a degree of discipline and consistency, and you'll add on years to your life.
Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
I haven't even checked the weather or anything like that because it's just been one of those days where I woke up and I went, oh my gosh, the first instance for me was today. I was like, oh my gosh, it's 2:00 yet. And I'm like, I got to get on with Len. And you know how you like when I eat, and I'm trying to eat, not you. But I was like, I got to eat. So I'm sitting here and I go, oh my gosh, it's that time again. But what I was thinking was today it's like, oh my gosh, is is the Utopia New York going to be covered in snow for 2 weeks again, like it was last time when we had a blizzard? Because Len, it hasn't been snowing in New York City for 200 years now already. We haven't figured out how to clear the snow off the streets. Just when we have someone who's more socialist leaning, the money just doesn't know how to be spent accordingly. What happened there? Is it, since your son's getting snowed in and he's in like Boston area, right? That's where he's at. Or where's he? Or he's in DC. He's in DC, right? Or he is in New York. That's right. He is in New York.
Yeah, he's in Brooklyn.
Yeah. I was going back. I was having memory lapses and going, wait a minute. When he was in
he was in DC for college. So
he was in DC for college, right? So I was going back to there. So, but yeah, that's right. So he's going to experience that again, or no? He didn't experience it last time.
Well, because it was such a large storm, he sent me some pictures, and it's like blizzard-like conditions, and it's New York and New Jersey are both shut down, and it's just crazy. So the good thing is his job will allow him to work remotely during that time, so they don't lose any productivity or anything like that, and he doesn't have to go out in it. So at least he can view it from afar because they still have electricity and all of that stuff. So he's good.
So I noticed you dodged the question though.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know that you were trying to set me up there, but
just because you're more sympathetic to the new mayor of New York City.
Hey, look, to me, if you're a Democrat or a Republican, you can't control how much snow falls in the ground.
Oh,
stop it. So
I'm just teasing you. I'm just trying to tease you a little bit. It kind of, to me, what it reminds me of? New York is having a California wildfire moment right now, where all of a sudden the state legislator and the people that run those states, they have an amnesia on how to run civil services. Like California forgets deforestation practices and forest management, and New York forgets sanitation and snow management and street management. All of a sudden, it's just, we forgot. We don't know how it happened. We forgot to fill the reservoir upstairs. But, who knows?
Crazy timing. I mean, I think it's always very convenient to find ways to point fingers and blame because, when natural disasters happen, things don't necessarily always go as planned. And so, but I will tell you, he did specifically talk about the animal feces that he saw in excess. He did talk about that. So I'm not even gonna lie about that, man. He was like,
what I like about him?
There's doo-doo everywhere, bro. It's crazy.
What I like about Mandami, what I love about him, he is the socialist version of Trump. He got up there and he completely obliterated everybody with look, guess what? I told you we were going to pay for everything, but now that all the people that I said are going to tax are leaving, he's going to raise property taxes on everybody. And now all these people are going, wait a minute, I didn't think my property tax. And you saw it because Kevin O'Leary is like, everyone's moving to my neighborhood across the bridge. And I think Florida just axed property taxes. I think I read something. I don't know if you saw that recently or not. So this is all happening. But I think the biggest thing that's happening right now, and I don't even know if we were going to talk about this. I think we were just going to talk about U.S. GDP at 121%, which is absolutely crazy, dangerous. But I think the biggest thing right now is that this happened before. This happened between us talking was the fact that the Supreme Court struck down the law that Trump used for the tariffs. So that's going on as well at the same time, which I think,
I want to talk about that when we talk about his State of the Nation address that's coming up tomorrow. So and by the time this airs, it will have already happened. So.
Which is going to be interesting. So I think that given all of that's going on right now, with that right now, where are you at with that? Because economic data looks good. I mean, I know GDP obviously is there, but volatility is there. But I think that what we're seeing right now is the fact that you have a lot of volatility in other countries. You have a lot of volatility in Japan. You have a lot of volatility. I think the European Union is on the brink of collapse. You're not seeing that so much in America. You're seeing still a lot of good consumer sentiment. But the thing is that people are still buying. People are still spending money in America. So you see still a lot of that. Where are you at with that, Len? Because it's almost like a lot of mixed signals. Michael Berry came out really, really strong on his predictions, late last year for the early part of this year. but you still haven't seen any of that. He was saying might even see it in December, November, if you did it. Mm-hmm. So things are looking pretty good, and Bassett still looks very confident. Like when Bassett gets out there, he doesn't flinch at all, and you kind of gotta admire him because he's kind of throwing Newsom under the bus. Newsom looks like he's cooked, but he's playing offense very effectively right now. I think, along with Rubio, he's playing offense. Things look strong. Where are you at with it, Len? Because it's like there's a lot of mixed signals. It's very confusing right now. I'm curious to know where you're at with it right now.
Okay, so I'm going to take the angle of the GDP angle. So when we look at the U.S. debt to GDP, so let me just break it down because it's the teacher in me. So you've got debt, which is the money that we owe, so expenditures that have already happened. And then we have GDP, or gross domestic product, which is our ability to produce here in the United States. So what's happening is that when we talk about that, it's 121% debt to GDP ratio. What we're saying is that essentially we're spending more. We owe more money than we have the ability to produce to pay off that debt. And it's only growing. So what's happening is that you have all of this money that's being produced, a portion of it is being spent to pay down the existing debt that we already have. So instead of putting money into roads, into bridges, into education, and into defense, a lot of that money, billions of dollars every year, are being spent to pay down the debt. So now that we've gotten just that brief understanding out of the way, the issue is that Trump's problem and challenge is affordability. So because we have this affordability challenge, what does that mean? What does that have to do with the debt to GDP ratio? See, because we have so much outstanding debt, most people don't necessarily look at that as their problem. But the reality is that it is because, okay, so what happens is when we have more debt, what do? We print more money. So when we print more money, what does that mean? It means that the dollar gets weaker, because if there's more money out in circulation, it's going to cost more of those dollars to buy things. And when it costs more of those dollars to buy things, then that means that the density or the potency of that dollar is getting more and more diluted. So if it costs more to buy stuff and we don't make more money either through running a business or through trading our time for money, then our ability to buy stuff is going to go down. So therefore, affordability is going to continue to be a problem. So when Trump talks about increasing affordability, you can't do that without reducing the debt or finding some other means to do that. And so that's the thing. I just believe, Chris, that a lot of our brothers and sisters here in America don't see the interconnectedness between the economy and debt and our own pocketbooks, but it's all connected. And you can't proclaim to take care of the affordability issue without taking care of the debt, because they're too connected. So when he gets up tomorrow and he talks about, oh, our economy's great and we're doing such a wonderful, wonderful job, and gas prices are down and egg prices are down, most people don't feel it. And so now what's going to happen? He's going to lie to our face and tell us that everything's great. He's going to tell us that the spit that's happening is rain, and the yellow stuff we see on the ground is lemonade and not pee. You can't lie to us. We're not dumb. And I just think that when the midterms happen, and I know you disagree with this, it's going to be a bloodbath for his party, because people are fed up and they feel like they're being lied to. So where do you stand? I want to go a little bit deeper, but I don't want to keep talking before I let you jump in and just react to what I've said and give me some of your thoughts.
I think normally when you see a midterm, it's always the interim party. Normally you see a little give and take, or an ebb and flow. You see that. That's historically.
That's, yes, 100%.
That's normally what happens. That's normally what you see. I don't think you're going to see that this cycle. I don't, because when you say people are sick and tired of it, you're absolutely right. People are sick and tired of what they left. This is still a process. But what we can say is that I think maybe most people don't feel it if you still live in New York or California or Washington or maybe even a little bit Florida, because things are still a little bit expensive in Florida, Florida's kind of like that outlier a little bit. But if you're in Texas or you're in Louisiana or Oklahoma or Kansas or any of those states, Idaho is a little expensive, but you're in states other than the coastal city states, like mostly New York. But these states are all in decline as far as gas prices, food prices. All of these states are going down by and large. So that is happening. But when you do talk about a lot of people that aren't feeling it, yeah, it's people that are living mostly in California or New York or Illinois, most part. They're the ones that are feeling it. They're feeling it. Now, wages are still a problem, but that's been a problem for a very, very long time. We've known that to be a problem. And to get deeper with it, but before I get deeper with it, I don't think, Len, we're going to see that, because most people.
When you say that, you're talking about the midterm.
They are seeing a positive impact. Now, if money starts to flow again, then there's absolutely no chance you're going to see a swing. And that's why I think Trump is pushing so hard on Fed cuts and all those things and banks realistically, when you think about it, who doesn't get excited about the fact that, unless you're an investor or a person who invests in that sector, who doesn't like the fact that Trump's trying to get credit card interest rates down to 10%? Like, who doesn't like that? But how is that not something where people can go, dang, someone's actually trying to fight for that? Because credit card interest rates are absolutely ridiculous. 28%, even 22% is ridiculous. 32%, 33%. So I think there's a lot of good things he's doing. But again, the media and a lot of the sentiment out there, and also the way he is, a lot of people ignore that or can't see that just because his delivery is still his delivery. But to get into it deeper, this is exactly what everyone's been talking about. And this is exactly what has been happening to America for the last, post World War II, is we've slowly taken away America's ability to manufacture, innovate, and produce. And we've turned America into this slush of consumerism. And that's where Trump's coming in and changing it. And this is exactly where NATO is pissed. And this is why the European Union is so pissed, because the game is up. The jig is up. No more outsourcing. America is now changing it back. And I understand, you and I have had this conversation a lot about manufacturing returning to the United States. You're right. Manufacturing is not going to return to the United States the way we think manufacturing is going to return to the United States. But it is now happening where all of a sudden the United States is now going back to its roots of, yeah, guys, the good stuff comes from here. And we're not going to allow offshoring anymore. We're just not. And it was systematically dismantled for a very long time. So when I see GDP like that, I don't get concerned about it. I don't. I'm in the camp with Elon Musk where he says, watch 18% growth, watch 20% growth in America's gross domestic product. Watch what happens when the economy. Watch when the economy grows by 18%, 20%. I'm in that camp with him, because I think we're on that moment, and the people that are innovating in the right sectors and are growing in the right companies that are not part of the old guard, and a lot of banks are part of that old guard. I think those are the companies that are rallying behind him and are building the next infrastructure in America. I think those companies are going to blow up, and a lot of the old companies that you see, you're going to have a massive S&P 500 reset like you've never seen. We've had S&P 500 resets where the S&P, like if you look back, what is it, 50, 100 years, 200, majority of the S&P 500 companies that are today weren't there. You're going to have a massive S&P 500 reset because the new players and the new economy that America's building that will introduce to the world, Trump's just the start of that. I think what Trump's doing is he's laying the groundwork and the policies to make sure that whoever succeeds him, his succession, goes way farther than what his presidency will ever go. And I think that's where most people are looking at it. I look at it that way simply because I don't think there's any way for America to get out of 33 trillion. You're absolutely right, Len. If we don't, and Elon Musk says it too, so I'm in that camp with him where he says, if we don't take it, and he says it, Elon Musk says it, if we don't take care of this debt, we're cooked. He said it. We're cooked. So the only way to get out of debt is to grow so fast that the debt becomes unimaginable now, because the income grows 100x faster than the debt is right now. And I think we're getting ready to see that with the innovation and the technologies and the breakthroughs that are getting ready to happen in the next 18 months that's going to come out of America. We're going to see a surge in economic prowess and future manufacturing and logistics and delivery of no one's ever seen. It's going to happen, and we're living in that time. I think I know you're more skeptical about it, but I'm telling you, it is happening right now,
Okay.
and it is going to explode like no one's ever seen before.
Okay, so my smile is not because I don't believe you. My smile is because your way of thinking, especially because you're a finance guy, it blows my mind, because your way of thinking is the reason why people have so much credit card debt. Because you're like, hey, I'm going to get a raise, so I have $15,000 of personal credit card debt. No problem. You know what's going to happen? I'm going to grow this business, and it's going to cook, and I'm going to have so much money. Or if I'm an employee, hey, I'm getting ready to get a promotion, and because I'm getting this promotion, who cares about the credit card debt? Let's go apply for another one. And that's the reason why our debt is so bad, because I don't think it's
the reason why our debt's so bad.
No. Okay, listen. So here's part of the issue. Just like you are optimistic, and it's good to be optimistic, but the other side of that coin of optimism is that when you're so optimistic, there's not enough pressure to feel any pain. And that's the reason why Congress keeps kicking the debt can down the road, because we believe at some point in time that we're going to automatically just, outproduce our debt, and we can print money so that we can continue to survive. And because we'll always be the world's reserve currency, that everything's always good. I think that there needs to be more of a balance between healthy optimism and also making rough decisions about what we need to cut. And the problem is that Congress can't agree on what we need to cut. Like, for example, the United States by far has the largest military the world has ever known. We have enough nuclear arsenal to blow up the world many, many times over. We have the machinery that exists today where we can go to any country on the planet and execute any type of military operation, whether it's with B-52s or F-16 fighters. And I'm not going to proclaim to be an expert on all of the military artillery in particular, but we've got
Maduro got a tattoo. Maduro got a tattoo on his chest that said, "I know the U.S. Strike Force." Like something. I'm just laughing here as you're saying we have the military technology to carry out any.
I mean, literally, yeah. I mean, we can go anywhere. So what's the point? The reason why I bring that up is simply to say that we can start to redirect some of the monies away from the military for a while to reduce the debt, just like in a household. If you know that you have 5 credit cards and one of those credit cards is $20,000 at 7%, but you've got 8 other cards that are smaller at, 10 or 11%, then you say, okay, I'm going to pay down the little cards because it's higher interest. I'm just redirecting where my money goes, and then I'll deal with that $20,000 credit card debt. In our situation as a country, the military is good for now. We can take some of that money, redirect it to infrastructure, redirect it to spending in education and things like that actually makes the country better. Research and development, building up, an infrastructure for manufacturing to bring that back. And so you touched on a lot of different points, but I think that we need to redirect, because I'm very, very concerned about this 121% because it's going to continue to go up. So I want to segue, unless you have something as a rebuttal.
Just real quick. I do.
Okay. I do want to talk about tariffs. So go ahead.
I do want to talk about that too. I don't think I don't look at it that way. I don't look at it as we're spending and all of that. And I don't look at it the way you're looking at it, because here's the way I look at it. I think that and all of those things that we need to invest in, I'm 100% behind, Len. Like, Lord knows it, if you drive around in America, if you drive around in Southern California and you've driven around in Southern California for more than 15 years, you know how bad it's gotten. You know. And you and I both know, bro, you and I both know you used to be able to drive around on the California, Southern California freeways, and it was like, bro, this feels like a speedway, right? Because it was so beautifully done. Like, but we all know in the last 10 years, especially post-COVID, infrastructure in California has gotten way bad. The roads are just absolutely abysmal. Like, it's just and don't even talk about traffic. And by the way, here Houston, terrible too. It's horrible. So with all of that being said, I think that the reason why Len, we could look at it as a negative and go, oh my gosh, because we're still operating under the same economic framework that got us where we're at today. And what I mean by that is this. If you take a super conservative national universal health plan for all the children in America, it's roughly $20 billion on the low end annually. $20 billion to give every child in America a fully functioning universal HMO health plan. That's insane. That's $20 billion. That is a spit in the ocean to make it rise the tide, right?
Considering how much we gave to Ukraine already, I mean.
Okay, right. So there's a lot of things we could say, okay?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. We don't even have to cut anything in America, because when we get back down to zero, which is exactly what we're doing right now, we get down to the zero, and we'll never get to zero because it's just too complicated, but we're going to get real close. I think we're going to get within 25% of zero. I think that's what Trump's trying to do here with his economic team. And that's what Musk was trying to do. But here's the thing. All we have to do is send a federal regulation team in of Trump's team to California and find 1/4 of the $250 billion worth of fraud, and we could fund an entire universal healthcare program for the entire United States, just with 1/4 of the $250 billion worth of fraud in California. And that's not even counting Illinois, New York, Washington, Oregon, Arizona now at this point. All of the fraud and waste and all of the crap. This is exactly why Congress won't pass a budget and will consistently pass the debt budget, because it's both the rhinos and the people on the right and both the lunatics on the left that want to keep this gravy train going. That's why they don't want to do this, because they know that the fraud and the overspend and the abuse is about to stop. So just if we take the fraud, waste, and abuse as a whole in the United States, if we add it all up, I guarantee you it's easily 4x the entire defense budget. Easily 4x. Because think about it, Len. If the defense budget is what, 800 billion, roughly somewhere there, California's fraud is 1/4 of it. You're telling me the United States of America, all the other states included, even Texas and their Florida, you're telling me that the rest of the United States, I know easily can add up another 3/4 or 250 or what is it, $750 billion worth of fraud? Easily you could find 700. I mean, shoot, you could find 100 billion in Minnesota alone. There's easily $100 billion in Minnesota, allegedly, right? Allegedly. So with all the alleged fraud going on in the United States, I can guarantee you there's easily $3 trillion worth of fraud going on in America.
Okay.
Easily. $1 trillion worth of fraud going on, because we already know that on the low end, $250 billion worth of fraud is happening in California. So that alone, if the national budget gets $250 billion worth of fraud back, that alone would pay for Medicaid, Medi for everybody in the United States would get universal. They would get the Canadian dream. Well, They wouldn't get the Canadian dream because Canada healthcare sucks.
Okay.
But they would get something that close resembles the perfect utopia that everybody wants. But that won't happen, because then that means Gavin Newsom and Nancy Pelosi can't be millionaires anymore, along with AOC, who's fast becoming a millionaire too.
Okay. So I believe that let's just say they do find fraud in California. I'm not saying if, I'm saying how much. That fraud has been happening over years and years and years, allegedly.
Exactly.
And so
when that paradigm shifts.
But here's the challenge, Chris. The challenge is that to your point, we need to have a shift in our entire approach. So, for example, when you look at the proliferation of AI and its ability to identify patterns and irregularity, I think if the government were able to come up with a way to do essentially a 50 state audit of the past 25 years and to say, look, we need you to send us all of your records. And, there's some type of AI machinery that can go through and analyze the degree to which fraud is happening. I believe that what you're talking about, some of that money that's been misused and abused could be recouped. But I think moving forward, the only way that we're going to even get close to having a balanced budget is to make sure that there are enough guardrails around every state so that we can say, look, if you want to expect money coming from the federal government to your state, you need to show us that you're spending according to the plans that you've set forth with us. And if you don't, then we're going to reduce it by a certain percentage. So if it's egregious, you reduce it by, whatever significant portion is. So then the state feels it immediately, because every year, every state gets federal funding, right? And then states raise their own taxes and stuff like that through property taxes and state taxes and so on and so forth. Well, so I think you got to revamp the whole thing. And I just think
you already have the answer. You already have the answer. You've seen it. All you have to do is look at that military exercise of getting Maduro led when they went into Venezuela. Mm-hmm. That operation the reason why that operation was so successful is because that was the most sophisticatedly, logistically, pragmatically calculated, efficiently sound military operation, efficient military operation in the history of all United States military operations. Why? Because you have a company like Palantir that did the data on that. So when you have the United States government use a company like Palantir, because that's what Palantir specializes in, Palantir comes in, and whether Palantir comes in and does what Palantir does, because that's what Palantir executes in, if you take a company like Palantir that can execute in the way you're saying, in the arena that we need to execute in, where you were just talking about, it's game over. That's the promise of AI. The promise of AI is taking a Palantir execution in a military sense, like the Maduro snatch and grab, and applying that in a civic sense, meaning that same type of calculation and prowess and efficiency, clamp it down on how we spend our money. Look, just don't impede our personal liberties. But don't. Well, here's the thing. Don't impede. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. You don't impede the due process and the liberties, the freedoms that we have. But see, if we don't do that, Len, my biggest fear is that if we don't get this under control, the argument for change in the wrong way becomes very loud and very easy, and then we go to more control and we lose less liberties because the more inefficient we get, Len, the easier it is. You know it. History repeats itself. The easier it gets to fall in love with someone like a Madami who goes, we're going to fix it all. And then here we go. Less than 90 days later, he's breaking everybody's hearts by saying, oh, by the way, everyone's getting a property tax increase, not just the rich people. So again, the middle class suffer the most here because they're the ones who that struggled to get to own property, and they're the ones who are going to get hosed. And when you look at a healthy economy like Texas that has a surplus of $33 billion last year, the majority of Texas's tax wealth comes from property taxes. You guys, but guess what?
Oh, I've owned
but here's the thing, though.
Texas, man. You guys screw us, man.
Right. But here's the thing, Len. You've walked around where I live in Texas. You don't mind paying those taxes when you walk around where I live because here's the thing. Price becomes no longer an object or an issue or an objection when value is now higher. And when you walk around in an area where you see tax dollars really working, if there is even some fraud going on, like they're skimming it, you don't even care or notice because the value is so good and efficient that you go, damn, I can walk around at night. I can leave my garage door open. The streets are clean. There's no weird stuff going on. Now, this doesn't mean there's not none of that going on.
Sure.
But you can automatically see that. And you know that because you live in your area for a very long time. And you can't tell me that the dynamics in your area, because you've lived in your area for 20 plus years now, right? Mm-hmm. You can't tell me they haven't changed a little, because I watched them change in San Jacinto, Hemet, where I used to live, where I bought a lot of property. And I went, what is going on here, right? So that, to me, is where you can apply that. You're absolutely right. We need all that. And I think America puts itself inward and looks inward and stops looking at NATO and the European Union and what we have to do for them. And we do rebuild our infrastructure here, and we do innovate some more. Because here's the thing, Len, I think that we could cook up some of the best social programs here in America. And I don't like social programs, but I think we could. But I think we're so stressed because we can't. The budget and the deficit isn't just that we're spending too much money. We know we're spending too much money, and we know we're printing, which is a death trap and a death spiral for fiat currencies. We've seen it happen. The Roman Empire was the greatest casualty of that. But at the same time, the other 50% of the deficit is the waste, fraud, and abuse that's happening in this country at an unprecedented level, where if we just take $40 billion, that's a loan in California, because that independent audit said there was at least $70 billion. Whoa, we can fund what we want to fund. You get what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
But 121% is still scary. It's still like, because we're so fragile that 121% can be a mortal wound for us right now. So you are absolutely right, Len. We say there is cause for concern for that. But I think we're getting ready to shift paradigms here in America, and no one even realizes or sees it yet. Only the people that are playing at the high stakes game, which is obviously Trump as one of the main architects of it. By the way, he's not acting alone in it. He's not.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit, since you brought up your favorite president. Let's talk about tariffs. And the fact is that he's been using tariffs as this weapon. He's been weaponizing tariffs, and it goes to the Supreme Court, which is 6-3, six conservatives and 3 liberals. And the one thing I love about judges in that branch of government is that they are governed by laws and precedent. And unlike the Congress, they're governed by lobbyists and external pressures. The executive branch is, they're same with lobbyists and getting votes. The judicial branch, they're guided by the most defined set of parameters and guidelines. And I think they're emerging as one of the most important legs of our democracy. And so when you look at the tariffs and the fact that it was, Trump was trying to push them forward and the Supreme Court said, nope, you're not doing it. How are you feeling about that? Because, of course, now you have Trump looking at loopholes to maneuver around it, because he can look at different articles in the Constitution to leverage his power to continue moving forward with tariffs. But when you have your judicial government, part of the government that's in place, there's a reason why they're there. And to step around it brings back this whole idea for those people who are saying Trump is not trying to be a king. Trump is not trying to act unilaterally. But when the Supreme Court is saying, look, bro, like you're making the wrong moves, and he still plunges forward anyway. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that, but I've got some major issues with that.
I think what's happening right now is, I think that the aristocrats of the world that are losing power right now, and we all know them now, the aristocrats of the world are.
But let's talk about Trump. Let's talk about Trump specifically.
I know. Specifically Trump.
Okay.
Specifically Trump. What Trump is doing right now is he is giving the aristocrats and the oligarchs of the world a masterclass and due process of civics. What you're watching right now, I think, is the beauty of the due process, checks and balances, give and take of the United States government civic framework. Mm-hmm. I think, Len, it's a very exciting time. Like, if you are alive right now and you are watching civics happen in America right now, which you are, and the greatest thing about America isn't like other countries. We don't hide our civics, to the most part. We hide a lot. There is a lot of stuff hidden in America, but for the most part, America is the most transparent government in the entire world. Like, we don't know what's going on in the Kremlin. We don't even know what's going on in British Parliament half the time because, again, it's still a monarchy. So the fact is that all of these guys are getting a masterclass in American civics, and they're seeing true, real due process. I think in the back of my mind, or in the back of his mind, Trump and his team knew there was a chance that the United States Supreme Court was going to strike this down, simply because the majority is just too great there. I mean, a 6-3 majority. And of course, we know the three that sided, or the three, what was it, Alito? Was it Alito? Was Alito one of the ones? I know it was Kavanaugh, and I know it was Clarence, Thomas. I know, and I think it was Alito. Not surprised that the other ones defected. Not surprised. I think this is just one of those things, like one of those times and those moments you have in business where you're like, all right, cool, we got it, and we're doing it, and we're moving, but there is this odd chance that this thing might come up. But if it does come up, we're prepared for it. It's just going to be more, it's just going to make the job a little bit more harder and a little bit more annoying. That's exactly where Trump's at and his team's at right now. We're like, there was a 50-50 chance this was going to happen, maybe more than a 50%, maybe a 60% chance it's going to happen. It's just annoying. It's going to slow us down. Mm-hmm. But of course, what they're going to do, Len, is they're going to go find and they'll pick one of the other 17 or 16 laws that are going to allow the president to enact tariffs. I think what we're seeing here is, yes, he is the executive branch. Executives get things done. Executives have to be aggressive. And they have to actually. But
he's not a CEO. He's a president. That's the difference.
Right, but he is though. He's the president of the United States. He's the commander in chief. His responsibility to the executive branch is to go out there, not interpret their law, not create, but to create law and to create policy and to make it an act and to enact it. And he has to fight through Congress to do that. So look. Presidents have always used executive power and executive choice to do this because that's within their grasp. So I think the due process came back, and I think what the Supreme Court is asking for at a 3-6, look, all they're going to do is just narrow this down until they find the law where it is interpreted in a majority in their favor. And that's exactly what the Trump team's doing. So now they're going to find a new law. They're going to enact the tariffs again underneath that. And I'm going to wrap it up, throw it back to you because I'm curious where you're going with it. And then Supreme Court's going to come back again. And they're going to rule on it, but this time they're going to rule on it in his favor because they're going to go, oh, we see it clear now. The Supreme Court is going, Trump, give us a clear reason why we don't disagree with you. Just give us a clear why on why you think this needs to happen outside of the Congress, because outside of the Congress, nothing would have happened. And lastly, the tariffs aren't all about Trump wanting to use tariffs absolute. I don't think in the back of Trump's mind, he sits down and goes, and says, tariffs are the absolute solution. I don't think so. I think there is a great percentage in his strategy, in his mind, that goes, he really knows that tariffs aren't the absolute. And he goes, damn, I really don't want to do tariffs. But tariffs are the easiest way for him 100% to show our allies, most importantly our allies, not our enemies, that we are moving and acting differently, and you better pull your weight or we're gonna leave you behind. And that's why he used tariffs, because tariffs were the fastest way to wake all these sissy, lazy, crybaby NATO countries up that have not done nothing. And the proof is in their receipts, because if they go at the end of the day, they can't prove that they have paid their fair share. And the people,
but you're mixing.
Hold on. And the people that love them so much are the people that always argue for the wealthy in this country to pay their fair share. Isn't that something, that the people that love our NATO allies so much and champion so much for them, Len, are the same people that say the billionaires and the millionaires and the corporations of America need to pay their fair share? Well, guess what? How come they don't say that those NATO countries pay their fair share either? So yeah, I think that the tariffs are essential and aren't essential. I'm not in favor for all of them, but I am in favor of them because I think it is our weapon. It's America's modern day weapon to get our, in between our legs back, and to stop the bleeding to happen in America and show us that we mean boss. And I think that's where we're at right now.
Okay.
That's my assessment of it.
All right. So when you think about the impact of Trump's policies as he's using tariffs as a weapon, you what NATO is doing is a different conversation in my view. When you look at tariffs, the main reason why tariffs are supposed to be used is to disincentivize companies here in America and export import industries here in America to bring goods and services from outside of our borders. And so by having products that you import from other countries for us to have to pay more money for them says, okay, instead of us getting those goods and services cheaper in China, in Mexico, in Brazil, and so on and so forth, we'll manufacture and produce those goods and services here in America. But the problem is, as we've talked about on other podcast episodes, that whole global economy has changed. It is not that anymore. And because we're not in the industrial age where we can produce and manufacture enough goods and services here in the United States to keep prices down, we're charging other people more money to send their goods and services here. And what ends up happening is the Supreme Court looked at how he was arbitrarily charging extra percentages on top of what he was already charging on the imports of goods and services. They said, no, you can't do that. What happened? The very same day, all of those companies, there's thousands of lawsuits where now the United States is on the hook for billions and billions of dollars. So the Supreme Court is trying to say, Trump, look, this is not the way to go about it. And so, but because he decided to rush like a bull in the China store and impose all of these tariffs, now he's going to have to pay billions of dollars unless they find some other ways to meander around it. So,
and they're going to find that way. They're going to find a way. And you're
okay, but hold on. Let me finish. But here's the problem with that. They will find a way. But here's the thing. The United States president is one of three branches of the whole governmental system. And what he's looking to do is expand his power beyond what it should be. A person like you who loves this country so much, Chris, you should be scared to death of one person trying to set a precedent to do that, because that's what other countries do. They're called dictators, and they try to yield so much power and it's a show of strength as well. So I understand that you like Trump's show of strength, and I like the fact that I agree with the fact that NATO and those countries that are our allies need to pay their fair share. But what I disagree with wholeheartedly is that you don't use tariffs as a weapon to extract money from them, because while you're extracting money from them, you're hurting them. But also when you bring that money into America, you're hurting all of us, because those companies that pay the extra tariff, they pass that down to the consumer. And so when he keeps talking about affordability, there's another problem. So you have two issues that all ultimately come back to affordability. The 121% debt to GDP ratio, which is not of his causing. So I'm not blaming him for that. But then when you look at tariffs, that is the exacerbation of prices, the increase of prices. Let me change the word, the increasing of prices on a consistent basis. And when the Supreme Court comes in and says, you're going about it the wrong way, and he says, screw you, I'm going to find another way to continue to do it. I think he's yielding, he's trying to amass too much power, and it's going beyond the scope of what a president of the United States should impose, because ultimately the decisions that he's doing is an abject disaster, Chris. You got to see that. And it's because of that disaster that we're paying the price. Even your guy, Kevin O'Leary, he was like, man, the business is really hurting because these prices are exorbitant and people are hurting because of it. And so that's why I'm saying he's got to listen to the judicial part of the government to say, hey, help me to help myself so I don't go off the rails here. And he's not doing that.
But I think that's exactly what you're seeing, because the the Supreme Court is judicial branch. So they're there to interpret the laws used to enact policy. And they clearly said, hey, you can't use that law. So, okay, cool. We'll go find another law to use. Because, look, I don't agree with tariffs unilaterally. I agree with reciprocal tariffs. The reciprocal tariffs are absolutely what we should be doing. For example, yeah, you're right.
With that.
We should not be tariffing the shit out of stuff we don't make here. We should be creating trade. But again, that's part of the tinkering and part of the what do you want to call it? The innovation, or I guess, for lack of a better word, as you start to refine the policy and the process, you go, okay, cool. We could take away these tariffs, adjust these tariffs here, and you start to negotiate with these countries so that we're stop getting hosed. Because all these countries, some of these countries were charging us 100% to get their stuff. It's not right. It's not right for us to do that. And you know, and I always remember this traveling when I was in my 20s going, why is it so expensive in Europe? Why is it, oh, it's more expensive in Europe? Why? Because everything over there is value-added tax, manipulated currency, and all the tariff crap that we deal with when we go over there. You know what? For what? Now you understand as you're an adult, 5 years later, you go, damn, these guys were screwing us back then. Screwing us over.
Well, okay, but to me, I think that they have a completely different economic system over there. Like most of the
right, and look at I'm not saying
I'm not saying I agree with it, but there are certain aspects of those economies that end up better for people. So, like for example, their healthcare system is definitely better than the United States. You can say that unequivocally.
In what country?
Norway, Sweden, London.
But
Copenhagen,
not London. Maybe Norway and Sweden, definitely. But those countries have a
smaller percent. I agree. Right, so I agree with that.
And by the way, in those countries, they don't charge you income tax if you have on your first 150 in a lot of those countries. So okay. Absolutely, it makes sense.
So you're making an argument that some of the ways they run their system is better. I'm not trying to argue that their system is better. I'm not trying to do that. What's
interesting about those systems that you mentioned is that most of those leaders side with Trump, and most of those leaders say everything works for us when we got more to an American-style capitalist system. Because that's what they do. The thing is that those countries that you mentioned, they're more capitalist countries now than America is. They're more capitalistic than we are. Why? Because what they did is they went, crap, let's get the waste, fraud, and abuse under control. Let's optimize and efficient and make everything efficient here. And that's what they've done. And now you're seeing how a true system like that works. It's amazing. You can have that here. By the way, Len, I am all for universal health care in America because I think we can do it in America because I think we make enough money in America. I just think we spend too much and we fraud too much.
I agree.
And I think that if we got our fraud under control, that would automatically take care of our spending.
I think it would help a lot, but I think we've got to change.
And 100%, and we would automatically have, we could have so much money in America that we'd have no idea what to do with it. We can actually do some of these weird things that we want to do in the world that these weird politicians want to do, and we understand why they do it. The problem is that that's not their money to decide what to do with. It's the people's money, and the people's money need to go towards the people's stuff first, the country first.
Okay.
Then we can go out. But see, since World War II ended, we haven't been doing that. We've been taking from the people. And now we've taken from 4 or 5 generations of the people where now we're at the current generation of people, which is the Xennials, where we're going, it's the baby boomers say it's all about the money, right? Gen Xers say, where is the money? Millennials say, what is money? And now millennials and Xennials are going, what is money? Mm-hmm. Because we're at this point where we've taken so much from the people to give everywhere else, where we don't have enough now anymore, where now the people are sitting here going, and they're realizing it as they wake up in New York City now, and they're going, wait a minute. He can't just take it from the rich. He has to take it from us too. See, that's the reality.
I've got a question for you, because what you're talking about is the reality of the terrible economic situation we're in right now. So
that we've been getting into since Clinton.
But we're in it right now. And you're right. This is no problems operate in a vacuum. And there are multiple facets and factors that contribute to this problem. So, State of the Union is coming up. What do you think we're going to, when people watch this on Thursday, and we've had the State of the Union that was addressed 2 days ago, what do you think the president's going to say? And what do you think is the reality of what's really happening? I have my thoughts, but I yield the floor to you. Be succinct, stay on point, and I'm gonna attack each of your points, and I want you to attack each of my points.
100%. Here's what I think is going to happen. You are absolutely going to see what you're going to see, which is the lunacy and the crybaby childishness of that group of people in the Democratic Party that run it, and they're going to probably do some kind of shenanigans. Plain and simple. You're going to see their immaturity on display, in full display. You're going to see it.
How will it look compared to what the Republicans do when the Democratic Party stands? Because here's my preface to my question, and I'll be quick. So,
like what? Nancy Pelosi tearing something?
No. Listen. So this is what happens. So, like, let's say, for example, when Trump in his first term would speak, all the Republicans stand up, they applaud, all the Democrats sit down and they don't say or do anything. Then Biden comes in. All of his points, the Democrats all stand and all the Republicans sit down. So are you saying tonight that something's going to be different than that? What do you anticipate with regard to that? Are you thinking they're going to walk out and not be there? You think they're going to get up and walk out en masse? Do you think they're going to do boos and jeers? Or you think they're going to still just not, you just think they're not going to applaud?
No, I think Nancy Pelosi set the stage for the ripping of the papers behind a duly elected president while he's giving a State of the Union address. You remember those? You remember that childish act by an adult from the state of California, which, by the way, she claims to be from the Golden State, but yet she's going to rip up paper, whatever the heck that was. Wasn't that Trump's like speech or something? And behind him, which is very childish. So
you think that's going to happen tomorrow night?
No, I think what you're going to see is, well, they can't.
What are you going to see?
The speaker is Johnson and the VP is JD. So that's who sits behind him, right? So I think what you're going to see is all these guys like Schumer and Hakeem who feel very empowered right now because the Supreme Court, what they don't know is that they have to showboat now because what they know in their minds that, crap, it's just a temporary setback because he's going to find another law because they know. They play the same game that he plays. They know this. But instead, they're going to make it seem like this is big thing, and they're going to probably do something outlandish, which is absolutely going to be disrespectful. Now, if they don't, kudos to them for being more mature. And yeah, you'll probably see the normal, but what you won't see with Trump is you won't see all the Republicans stand and clap for him because there is a section of the Republican Party that is just as bad as the Democratic Party where, they're called the rhinos or whatever they're called, where they're rotten to the core. They're just about themselves in their back pocket and insider trading and all the scandalous things that politicians do besides lying, cheating, and stealing. And they're going to probably not stand up either. But what I think you're going to see is a very clear reinforcement and refresher of the commandment and directive. And you're going to see a commander-in-chief deliver a very positive, very commanding, very upbeat, very directional, very clear and concise plan to get America to be healthy, competitive, and think twice before you mess with us, which is exactly what all of us want as American. We want that because we like that. And the world, by the way, is much better that way because you guys gave that position to us. Not once, but twice. The rest of the world called us in and said, please help us because we can't figure it out for ourselves. And if we have to do it a third time, we will. And that's exactly what's happening here again. We're just not doing it militarily. We're doing it by unpending all the years of unfair advantage that we gave the rest of the world to pickpocket us legally. And that's what's changing. See, it's not the saber rattling isn't happening anymore. The saber rattling with all these guys that play in the old world of bombs and missiles, that's not the world anymore. That's not. The world is now, we're just going to take all this back from you and then we'll decide what we're going to get back to you because really at the end of the day, what are you doing for the rest of the planet? Because all these other countries are over polluting the planet. They don't care about green initiatives. None of them do.
Okay.
So That's what I think is going to happen. You're going to see an actual president go up there and say, yeah, guys, here's what's happening. You're going to see some Ronald Reagan stuff is what you're going to see.
Really? Okay. So I can't wait for us to get together.
Just Trump
next
style.
week.
Just Trump style.
Okay.
Just Trump style. Just
Okay.
Trump style. You definitely won't see a formaldehyde-filled corpse like you did the last few years.
Okay, look. Okay, so
or maybe he's a robot now.
I think part of your
right?
challenge is that your president is so bad you have to go back to Biden just to go back to an example that's worse. This is what's going to happen, I believe. So we're going to play back this receipt, man, and see who's more accurate. What I believe, this is what I believe that good leadership is. A good leader will be clear, decisive, tell what's good. So you start off and you make it a sandwich. So you start off with the positive and then you talk about what's good so people can have a sense of optimism. And then you sandwich the difficulties, the challenges and the concerns. And then you end up with the positive message. And that's where you give a clear, specific plan. That is not his style. This is what I believe is going to happen. I believe that he's going to talk about the fact that I want to do a count. And while you're watching it, we should do over under of how many hyperbolic statements will he say that it's the greatest in the history of the world. That phrase, the greatest economy in the history of the world, the greatest president in the history of the world, the greatest, strategy in the history of the world, the greatest country in the history of the world. So my over under, I think that it's going to be the longest. I think it's going to be the longest speech in the history of every president. I believe that. And I believe that over under, I believe that he's going to use the greatest in the history of the world. I'm going to say 75 times. He's going to say 75 times. And so I'm going to count, man. And I'm very interested to see how close we come to that number. Because if he does a 2-hour speech, that means that he's doing one every other minute, bro. So that's going to be interesting. Now, the other part is you talked about he's going to lay out a clear plan that's Reagan-esque. The thing about Reagan is that he was able to be very methodical and precise in his language, and he was able to offer humor and brevity at the same time. Trump has the humor and brevity, but he doesn't have the clarity. I don't believe, because what's going to happen is he's going to go off on all these different tangents. He'll start off, he'll use the teleprompters for the first 15 minutes. And then the next hour and a half, he'll just go and riff. He's going to riff, man. It's going to be an absolute hilarious thing. Now, here are a couple of lies that he's going to talk about. I won't say lies.
Mistruths.
Yeah. So mistruths or half truths or outright negations of what is truth and misinterpretations of what's truth. He's going to talk about the fact that he's going to use the radical left at least 50 times. So 75 times, I'm writing this down as I said, 75 times in the history of the world and 50 times the radical left. And when you talk about the State of the Union, to me, I think that's gotta be a message that brings unity, because you're not the president of the Republican Party. You're the president of the United States. And so, when he's going to use the term radical left, he's going to talk about tariffs and why, tariffs should be used and how we've brought in so much money and more money than any other president in the history of the world. He's going to talk about that. And I also think that he's going to talk about ICE and the incredible job that they're doing, but the people on the radical left is stopping us, and we're going to continue to secure our borders. And I think other than that, he's going to talk about how great our economy is. And that's where he's going to make his biggest blunder, because while you, Chris, you're fine financially. You're not, when little hiccups and stuff like that happen here and there, you're insulated from it because you've already made your money. When people listen to a president try to tell them that everything's going great with the economy and they don't feel it, that's where he's going to lose any little credibility that he had. And he's not going to talk about Epstein whatsoever. And that's on the minds of everybody. And because he's not going to address it, and even if he says, look, we signed the Epstein files, we have released 6 million documents, and we're going to ensure that the people who have been pedophiles and hurting other people, we're going to get to the bottom of it, but give us time. He's not going to do that. And people are going to wonder, why in the world is he not addressing it? And he's going to lose credibility, and all of the news stations outside of Fox and Newsmax and OAN are going to talk about how incredibly sporadic and how much riffing he did. It's going to be a mess. And I think he's going to get blasted for it. And I think that it's going to be more division and more questions after his speech than before. That's my guess. I hope, make this my last statement. I hope that what you said he's going to do is actually what happens. I want to see him come and deliver a message of unity and of hope and of optimism and of reality. I want to see him do that. That's just not in his wheelhouse. I don't think he's capable of doing it.
I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be one of those to remember. And but I definitely think he needs to talk about Epstein 100%. He is executive branch. Executive branch is to go out there and enact the laws. He should be arresting people. Like, people need to get arrested now for this Epstein shit. Like, it's enough is enough at this point now. It's like, you see the stuff on social media where it's like, all right, I don't want to hear about it anymore. I want to see arrests. Yeah. So yeah, people need to get brought to justice. I mean, look at they hauled Prince Andrew's butt into jail
because it's in Europe.
Okay. You see his mug in the back.
How many people? Like right now, Les Wexner. He was called in. There's no formal charges.
Hey,
nothing.
Hey, you saw like a couple weeks ago, Chucker Carlson would go, "Why hasn't anybody interviewed Lex Wexner?" Right? Because he's the guy who bankrolled it, right? And then all of a sudden they sit down with him, and his attorney whispers in his ear, "If you answer anything more than $5,000," and then he says, "I'm gonna." Kill you or unalive you or whatever. Right. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, like, exactly.
What?
And so, see, that's the problem. Like, what goes on with the rich and the powerful? There's no accountability for them.
I have major issues with that. I think it's a different set of rules, Len. It's a different level of game. Where
and we're seeing
those
that.
rules. It's a different. It's almost like a different court. You know what I mean? Like when you're at this level, you don't even go to court. You go to that's
why I respect Europe and how they're handling this right now. Oh, Prince got called into question. He might do jail time. I doubt that he'll do jail time, but the fact that he's called on the carpet the way that he's been called out and the way that he's been held to account, I respect that, man. I respect that.
And not one person. A lot of people have stepped down, but not enough people.
Not here in America.
Like Larry Summers should be arrested. Larry Summers should be arrested in America. 100%. Like that lady that was like the chief counsel of Morgan Stanley or whatever. All these people that communicated with him after he was convicted, all of this crap. Like these people need to be hauled up front because this is. But I think the Epstein stuff, like I said, Len, I've said it for a long time. It goes so deep. It goes so deep. It's so big. And it's everything. It's everything. Yeah, man. It's Epstein stuff is nasty. It's some of the nastiest stuff. It goes beyond just pedophilia and sex trafficking. It's every wretched, disgusting thing that you could ever possibly imagine. It's in that wheelhouse.
Yeah,
and nobody. So many people are. You are either in it or you weren't in it. And there's majority. Sadly, the majority of people that run the world were in it.
And to me, I believe that as a citizenry, that we will give you the benefit of the doubt until you're proven guilty. For example, we've said this before. I believe that if you're a person who's considered a mover and shaker, you're getting an email from Epstein. Some way, somehow he's going to reach out to you. And so because of that, that doesn't mean that you're into all of that stuff. And the thing is, though, he uses that as a tool to allow you to let the least of your sensibilities get to you. So greed and lust and that thirst for, because once you hit a certain economic threshold, it's not a lot that excites you. So you got to step outside of the boundaries and go into those gray areas. And so the
fringe. You're now in the fringe.
Exactly. And he preyed on that. And so if you're not buttoned up, if you're not a person who has a real deep sense of morality, because here's the reality. I know that if I had more access to more things, it would be more difficult for me to say no. But because I don't have access to those different things, it doesn't enter into my psyche. Be like, for me, I love sweets. If there were 10 sweet potato pies and 10 peach cobblers and 10 cherry pies in my pantry right now, it'd be very difficult for me to walk away from it. But because I understand that's a weakness of mine, I leave it outside of my pantry. And so, but when you're rich, the equivalent is that every single day you got to open up your pantry and you see whatever your vice is looking at you every day. So I have a sense of empathy from the standpoint that it takes a higher degree of willpower to push away the things that you're drawn to because you have access to it. And so he preyed on that. So I have some empathy for that. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to you're hurting kids and you're SAing, little girls or boys, whatever the case may be, there's no gray area with that. You can't allow that. And so if their name is on the list, there's not a problem. But now go and do the research and go and do an investigation. The issue is that they're playing by a different set of rules where they're not even being investigated. And that's really where I have the issue. And so I don't know, man. I know we're going to keep talking about this and I'm going to keep bringing it up. And I hope that at some point in time, people will begin to be brought to justice and the right people will be brought to justice for the right reasons. I don't want anybody to do one day of jail time that didn't do anything wrong. I don't want anybody to pay any restitution that didn't do anything wrong, but I want every single person that hurt somebody, that abused somebody, that mistreated somebody to pay the full price to the fullest extent of the law, man.
Yeah, I think it just needs to keep being talked about because it's one of those things because if you don't, then you're going to forget it happened and it's just it's so far gone and so widely gone.
Because there's so many things to talk about. There's so many distractions.
And by the way, sexual assault isn't just the only thing, by the way, that's in there. There's far worse in there than even that. For some people go, how could it be worse than that, right? Not to, diminish it, but there is stuff in there that's pretty bad, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
And I think the problem though is that as you start to make more money and you start to acquire more wealth and you start to get more power, I think that's where you start to I think that's where you actually have to start praying more. And you actually have to start having more faith and grounding yourself because you're absolutely right, Len. As you start to acquire more power and wealth, your level of accountability starts to diminish because less people start holding you accountable in the world because you're at this level and now you have access to everything. That's really where you have to have more self accountability and you have to go, God,
The
Pray
only thing that keeps me in
for that.
Yes. The only thing that keeps me in order is my relationship with Jesus Christ. Outside of that, so many of my vices would go unchecked, bro. I'm a mess. But the thing that keeps me grounded is having an intimate and personal relationship with Jesus and God. That's it. That's what keeps me on the straight and narrow. If I were left to my own devices, bro, I'm a mess as it is. I'd be 10 times worse. And so let's go to a lighter topic, man. Well, it's still heavy, but it's a lot lighter than this. And one of the things that we talked about was the fact that there are certain types of foods that are out there that are considered healthy, but really aren't. And so, we took a look at article or video by a gentleman by the name of Ben Azadi. So if you're watching this, make sure that you go like and subscribe to his channel. He gives a lot of good content, and he talks a lot about insulin resistance and how certain ways that you eat can influence the amount of blood the sugar or insulin that gets into your blood or your cells. And so, before I go, Chris, I know that this is a real topic that's close to your heart when we talk about insulin resistance and the types of food that you eat. But these 9 foods, do you want me to go through those foods? You want to do them one at a time, or do you want me to rattle them all off at the same time?
I have them all too.
Okay.
I have it's all the lies of the nutrition and the food industry.
Yeah.
They're all in one group. Look, you can rattle them off, but I think, or you can go one by one because they each have their own evilness. But you're absolutely right.
Okay, let's go one by one then. Let's do that.
The general premise is what's the glycemic index, or how much do these spike your blood sugar? And the problem isn't necessarily even these foods by themselves, because these foods still can be eaten. Right? That's
right.
The problem is that the way people eat them and the way when they're eaten and how they're eaten is which is what causes the problem. And people don't realize that they're spiking their blood sugar and craving sugar spikes since the beginning of the day.
That's right.
And so breakfast is the most important meal of the day, right? Breakfast is the worst meal of the day. And the only time you should be eating breakfast is if it's high protein and low carb. That's it. There should be because if you eat high carb or high sugar, which is almost every single one of these things that you're going to mention in the morning, you have just immediately put yourself on the sugar
spike
all day long. And that's what kills you. That's what creates cardiovascular disease, coronary heart disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, insulin resistance, which obviously most people don't even understand what insulin resistance is, but it's going to be there now. It's going to be household now, like I think, obesity is, or heart disease is now, because the real cause of Alzheimer's and the real cause of heart disease and arteriosclerosis and all that is insulin resistance. And we're starting to see that now. And yeah, you can name those foods. I don't think I eat any of these things, by the way. As you're going to list them, I don't think I eat any of them.
Well, okay, let's do one at a time, and then we'll just do rapid fire. So the one thing is, can you talk a little bit about what insulin resistance is in a succinct way, just so our audience will understand? Because, that's such a big topic and people hear about it. But, if somebody's out there, if you could explain it like on a third grade level, how would you explain it?
So every time you eat, and by the way, every time you eat, your body turns food into glucose, which is essentially sugar. And that's what you use to operate. That's what your body then converts and turns into
energy.
ATP, right? Which is the cellular level. All right, cool. So you need it, right? The thing about sugar is that your body can make an infinite amount of sugar without you eating any of it. You don't need to eat any sugar. You could eat zero sugar and your body will make all the sugar in the world. And the enemy is always salt, right? Salt. Well, your body can't make salt. No matter what you do, it can't make salt. So we've been lied to and been told to do this, but I don't want to get off into those things because then I start riffing on that stuff. But here's essentially what happens. When you eat food, it then gets processed and turned into glucose, and that goes in your blood. And then that sugar is in your blood, but it can't stay in your blood because sugar in your blood is toxic, right? But that sugar has to go. So what ends up happening first is when you eat, you release insulin. And what insulin does is insulin takes the sugar and transports it to where it's needed. So the first thing it's going to do is it's going to take it to your muscles. And if you have good muscle mass, which is why muscle is a predominant predictor of longevity, because as you lose muscle, you lose your metabolic function, right? Most people don't realize that muscle is one of the key things in metabolic health, because immediately what happens is and by the way, muscles are greedy. Muscles are very greedy. Mm-hmm. So those muscles are going to go, give me that, and they're going to take it. And if your muscles take all of the glucose, then you're good, because they're going to use it for energy, right? The more muscle you have, the more lean muscle you'll have, the easier you could just sit, because as you just even sit, those muscles are going to use glucose, are going to use energy. So now you just sit there and you burn it off, right? And then what happens is that as you have that sugar left over, if your muscles don't use it, then that glucose or that insulin is going to go, well, where else can we take it? And then the insulin's going to take it, and if you're eating it too much, the insulin's going to take it to fat cells. And that's where you just get more fat cells created, and that's where you start to develop visceral fat, right? And insulin is not a problem. It becomes a problem when you have too much. So insulin resistance now means is that as you keep eating the sugar and you're not using it, insulin keeps getting pumped up. Your cells start becoming, because insulin is a hormone. Insulin it's just like a drug. So as you start taking it, start becoming tolerant. Well, guess what? That insulin is going out there, but your cells, your muscles, your fat, it's not taking it. It's not absorbing it, because it's become insulin resistant. So you have to keep pumping out more insulin.
And then it stays in your blood. Yeah.
And then it stays in your blood, and it stays in your tissues, and it stays, and then all of a sudden it starts staying in your liver. And that's why now today, when a 20 or 30-year-old goes in for cirrhosis of the liver, it's not because of alcohol. It's because of sugar. It's because of too many carbs. It's because of too much glucose, too much insulin, which creates the same phenomenon as too much alcohol, right? Mm-hmm. You overburden the liver, because the liver's job is to filter out the sugar. And the thing is that most people don't realize is that you eat this stuff in the morning, you don't need it, because when you start forcing your body to make its own glucose, the liver will give you all the glucose and sugar in the morning that you need. All you need is protein.
Yep.
And that's what insulin resistance and sensitivity. So all of a sudden you become insulin resistant, and then all of a sudden you become diabetic, and all of a sudden you get scarring in your arteries, and all of a sudden your cholesterol goes up, because the cholesterol is there to repair it. And so all of a sudden all this bad stuff starts compounding in your body. You become metabolically ill. And the end results of those are cancer, cardiovascular disease, coronary heart disease, strokes, diabetes, and all these things that Americans have today that we didn't have en masse like we did today, because we've changed our diet and we started eating all this crap that's on this list, where I'm like, yeah, I don't eat any of the stuff. None of it. I don't eat any of it.
So the first thing is whole wheat bread. Most people think whole wheat bread is good, but the problem is that it uses finely ground flour. And then what ends up happening is that it breaks down and it turns into glucose, and now you have a sugar spike, and people are eating whole wheat bread thinking that it's healthy for them, not realizing that it causes an insulin spike. Mm-hmm. You know,
it's got to be sprouted, and it has to be ancient grain, because the problem is
sourdough.
Or sourdough, right? It's what's funny, Len, as I was telling somebody, there's a recipe for how to make bread in the Bible. It's Ezekiel, right? Mm-hmm. Right? And it is sourdough, right? Sourdough bread, you can, because sourdough bread's fermented, but with most whole wheat bread that you think is healthy, you pick up, it's got maltodextrin in it and emulsifiers, and then it also has modified starch or food starch in it, which spikes your blood sugar faster than sugar does.
Yeah.
So I don't even eat that stuff. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to eat bread, it's made here in my house, or I'll buy a loaf from somewhere where I know it's just 3 or 4 ingredients.
Yep. The next one is fruit juice.
Salt. Horrible.
Yeah. No doubt. The next one is
orange
fruit juice. Yeah. So you think
horrible.
Orange juice, apple juice, and all of that.
Horrible.
It's almost like drinking sugar. That's pretty much what it is. And so oftentimes,
because most people juice and they don't eat the pulp.
That's right.
And the pulp is where the fiber's at. So when you consume the fiber, it blunts that sugar from the juice. But most people don't do that. They drink just juice.
Exactly.
And most juice has added sugar to it.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is that
juicier.
God made fruit for a reason. When you eat an orange, it allows your blood sugar to go up, but it doesn't spike because of the fiber that's in it. Same thing with apples, And so when you just take all of that out, that is literally going right to your blood. And you think because it's 100% fruit juice, and that may say that on the label, but the reality is that's going straight to your blood, and it's big time spikes that happen with that. The next one, here's a big one: instant oatmeal. And
Trash.
Even oatmeal, man, it's all bad because it has so much added sugar and
sugar.
Yeah, and it just, it's a simple carbohydrate, and it just turns into sugar.
They're like people that say oats are so good. It's a superfood. Oats are some of the worst things. And of course, they do these stupid controlled studies where they go, these people improved all their lipoproteins just by eating oats because all they ate was oats.
Right, exactly.
It's like when the people go, all I ate was McDonald's. But what they don't understand is that long term, you can't survive off of just eating oats. Mm-hmm. So you get that temporary thing. But oats, not only that, oats are some of the most rich glyphosated, nastiest pesticided, disgusting. If you're going to eat oats, please get sprouted, organic, sprouted, non-GMO, organic, whole, glyphosate, independently tested, grow up oats, and make oatmeal cookies or something. I don't know. But oats are disgusting. And the instant oatmeal with the Quaker man on it, with all the other crap in it, disgusting.
Yes. The next one, protein bars. People love protein bars, and they think, oh my goodness, I'm adding extra protein because it's too hard to get by eating chicken breast and,
seed oil city, baby. Like mm-hmm. Seed oil cities, GMOs. You know what? Do you know there's more cancer causing or carcinogen levels and cancer causing ingredients in the fake vegan hamburgers than there are in cigarettes? Did you know that?
That's crazy.
Burger, really crazy. There's more colorectal cancer causing ingredients in burgers stuff. Or I'm sorry, scratch that. I didn't say that. Take that out. I want alternative hamburger patties than there are in cigarettes.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Frayne, make sure you take that name.
Take out the name for defamation.
Take out that name. Fake vegan hamburgers have more carcinogens.
Yeah, right? Yep, they sure do. Here's another one for you: low-fat yogurt.
Disgusting.
Yep, because they take out the fat, but then they add in the extra sugar so it'll have flavor. And what happens? You eat that low-fat yogurt thinking you're healthy, you're cutting down fat, but you're increasing your glucose because of the fact that you've got all that sugar inside of it.
The healthiest thing for your brain is fat. Mm-hmm. Saturated fat is omega-3s, fatty fish, avocados. That's the health. Your brain. You have no brain fog when you eat on that stuff. Mm-hmm. You have brain fog, I guarantee you, when you're eating low-fat yogurt. Yep. And if you're going to eat yogurt, it needs to be full fat or Greek yogurt. If you don't want the fat in the yogurt, eat Greek yogurt. Please do not eat low-fat yogurt. It's disgusting. Yep.
The best thing, if you want an alternative, is eat Greek yogurt, whole Greek yogurt, and then place blueberries inside of it because they're antioxidants. Yep. So you take your blueberries, your raspberries, and you use that as your sweetener. And so,
just a thing for dairy for a lot of people because they don't like dairy because they can't handle it. Get A2 dairy. So if you can, a lot of Greek yogurts aren't A2, but you can get A2 yogurt or A2 milk, and you won't if you're someone who's lactose or you're sensitive to it, because A2 is ancient. It's for ancient cows, so it's casein protein 2. Whereas regular cows all have casein protein 1. And casein protein 1 is not tolerated by humans, but if you eat or consume casein protein 2, which is A2 protein yogurts or A2 protein milks, you can generally eat that and tolerate it a whole lot better than you can, no pun intended, whole, right, than you can with a traditional whole dairy. So if you're like, I like whole milk, right, or I like it, get A2 organic, non-GMO milk, and you'll feel a lot different on it, and the protein's a lot better for your brain. So.
Definitely. Talking about milk, sweetened almond milk. People think, I'm drinking almond milk. It's liquid sugar, and there's no fiber to slow it down, so it goes right into your bloodstream.
It's just as bad as oat milk. It's horrible. Yes. All these people that think, I got oat milk and almond milk. Oat milk and almond milk is this poison. You might as well drink a Coca-Cola Classic.
Right.
You might as well. You might as well. It's horrible stuff for you.
Yep. Definitely. I mean, if you take like regular almond milk, it's watery. If you don't add any sugar to it, that's okay. But the problem with it is that most of the almond milk that people elect to get has all of those extra additives and sweeteners inside of it. It's crap.
Yep.
Next one is agave nectar. They think, oh, I'm not eating, sugar, regular cane sugar. Let's do agave nectar. Well, the issue with that one, high fructose, and it increases liver fat because when you take it over time, it has that visceral fat that you talked about. Mm-hmm. Visceral fat, just in case that term is new to you, it's a fat that gathers around your organs. It's the internal fat that's around your heart, your liver, and your kidneys. And the more visceral fat you get, the less circulation is available for your organs to function as they're supposed to function. So,
and you can't burn fat, and it releases cytokines. Mm-hmm. So, it produces cortisol more. When you have more cortisol, you can't burn fat, mm-hmm. and when you have more visceral fat, you're promoting more kind of cytokines, and you're producing more. So, all of it just becomes your system becomes horrible. Look, if you're going to do anything sweet, because I like sweet. I'll do organic cane sugar every now and then. It's weird. Organic cane sugar. Have you ever seen it, Len? It's almost like brown sugar. It's brown.
Yes.
And I'll do a little bit of that in moderation because it's like, dude, but maple syrup. Organic maple syrup, or if you're gonna sugar something, organic maple syrup is great. Mm-hmm. It tastes great. It's awesome. Definitely. And you get used to it. And sometimes I'll just take like this and I'll be like, I'm so sugar sensitive where I'm like, wow, that's so sweet. But
head starts to hurt.
Oh, heck yeah. But agave nectar is gross. It's gross. And I think you're going to mention something next, which is even more gross than anything on here.
Granola.
Ugh. Talk about granola is like taking oats and making them worse.
That's right. Take oats and sugar and oil and putting it all together.
Make it worse. It's just making it worse.
Isn't it crazy how they marketed it so well to make us think that granolas are actually good for you? It blows my mind.
Well, yeah. I mean, you put cartoon characters on these boxes of cereals and people think it's healthy.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So, wait a minute. Hold on. I think I know what's coming next.
Whole grain cereal.
Disgusting. Think about it. What are you going to have for breakfast? You're going to have whole grain cereal with 2% milk fat or almond milk with low fat yogurt with
some
fruit juice with a side of toast with margarine on it.
Right. Exactly.
And you wonder why everyone is so unhealthy and why all these kids in their 20s and 30s are getting colorectal cancer.
That's right. Exactly. Ultra high.
They ate this for breakfast.
Yeah. Exactly.
Len, did you eat this for breakfast? Len, did you eat cereal with 2% milk with fruit juice? Did you eat that for breakfast?
I did. I certainly did.
I didn't eat that for breakfast. My mom fed us bacon and eggs for breakfast.
I had that too,
bacon and eggs.
Definitely
and my mom would make biscuits or pancakes from scratch. When we'd have that stuff, we never had this stuff. We never ate this stuff. I think back then I never ate this stuff when I was a kid.
A regular meal for me in the morning would be frosted cornflakes with wheat bread and margarine and orange juice.
Yep. Was it Country Crock?
No, we couldn't afford Country Crock. It was butter.
Butter!
It was generic butter with the light brown box.
Yes.
Or we did do Country Crock sometimes. And then
that was the treat, right?
And then when I got richer, I used to get I can't believe it's not butter, and it was margarine.
Yuck.
Yeah, man, it was disgusting. All bad, but we didn't know. You know what I mean? And our parents
didn't know because you were taught.
Exactly.
You're taught.
Exactly.
You're taught.
And that's why I like having conversations like this because, our goal is to dispel the different myths that are out there regarding our nutrition because, I was having a conversation with somebody at my church and she was talking about how her parent is starting to show signs of dementia. And when you look at all of the lifestyle habits that we have, who knows to what degree all of those symptoms she's experiencing right now could have been prevented simply with a different diet. And
I did a study with
millions of people.
I did a study with it. Interestingly enough, I did it all with all the metrics with ChatGPT. And ChatGPT on a normal human being estimates 15 to 18 years more of life.
Wow.
If
That's
you follow a clean,
difference.
paleo Mediterranean, low process, exercise the proper amount, just 50 air squats a day and 7,000 steps a day. Just that exercise routine, not even zone 2 cardio.
Wow.
A solid 15 to 18 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
So think about that. If you lived, so think about someone who died of something like that, you know, right? And you're like, damn, dude, like, for example, maybe they were 55. Add 15 years to their life.
Yeah.
That's huge, bro. You're making it to 70, dude. Right?
Yeah.
I think about my mom who's 78, was diabetic type 2 since 45. Now she's not diabetic anymore because she reversed it and she lost 150 pounds.
Did
she's
she
78.
really? I didn't know that. Wow.
Len, my mom is 78 and my mom can bend over and touch put her hands flat on her palms flat on the floor in front of her. I can't even do that.
Good for
And I'm going,
her,
down, girl.
man.
You're 78. The magic of your body when you reverse it and you stop eating sugar and you start eating more Mediterranean and more paleo. And by the way, this is optimizing. You balance out. Like I know if I eat too many vegetables, my joints will start to hurt a little bit. And I know that's the oxalates. I know it. So for me, I know I always do well on a low carb, high protein diet. And I've been doing that since I was in my 20s.
Well, you know, I think that's a good.
And when I get away from that is when I get unhealthy.
Yep. I think that's a good point to end on, which is, you know, regardless of what you've done to your body, the body is very forgiving if you begin to take care of it. So eat well, exercise, do those things with a degree of discipline and consistency, and you'll add on years to your life. And so, Chris, I can't wait to our next conversation because by that time we'll have heard the State of the Union address and we'll be able to have conversations about it. And for those of you that are watching, please like and subscribe. Our goal is to continue to give you better content and more effective content. We'll continue to get better, and we want you to like, subscribe, and interact, and also be around because of the fact that you have two people who strongly disagree on many points, but we agree on the fact that we live in a country where we can have nice, robust debate, listen to each other, take each other's perspective into our consciousness and reflect on it in our quiet time. And sometimes we'll change each other's opinions because of the fact that we gave them a chance to express themselves. So I hope that you do the same, and we hope to model that for you. And with that being said, until next time, continue to get better, continue to keep learning, continue to be open to diverse ideas. Take care, everybody.
See you on the next one, Lynn.
All right, Chris.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.